Okay, we had about 60 people signed up for the webinar. It looks like more than half are here, so I'd say that's good these days. And other people will await the recording. If anyone wants to, you can use the chat to send messages. Our team will do the best we can to moderate those as well. I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you've been in the SEO space for any time, like myself, like July, and some others who are on here, you know, the only thing that's constant when it comes to SEO and search is change. We continue to see whether it's Google algorithm updates, how things are ranked. I going way back to the days of keyword stuffing and having keywords in white copy so they don't stand out, only the search engines can see them. To now we have AI and all the other things. The only thing constant is change, and we as marketers do the best we can to talk to our best customers and prospects through our content in as many places as we can, right, where they are. So we're going to touch on, breaking down some of the myths. If you're like me at all, you might have some FOMO because you already feel behind when it comes to AI overviews, just based on the articles you read. But I can tell you, out of the other webinars I've attended, the 50 plus articles that I read in preparing for this webinar, you're okay. I'm just going to let you know that right now. So, we talked about this, what's changing in search, how AI influences what people see and what they don't see. And this is more geared towards B2B. B2C is, has kind of different applications. So if you have specific questions, please feel free to raise your hand. But let's stay ready for whatever Google gives us next. So today we're going to talk about what's changing in Google search and SEO, what it means for B2B marketers, and practical things you can do now as you continue to hone in on your content strategy. What it means is there is a fundamental shift from search engine optimization to answer engine optimization. But if you've always been talking to your best prospects and answering their questions and pains anyway, you're already ahead of the game. Traditional SEO playbooks, they need some updating, not replacing. SEO is not dead. I'm going to say that a few times. It's not dead. It just continues to evolve. We're going to give you some actionable strategies that you can implement this week and then also over the next 90 days. First, let's start with a fun glossary, just because some of these things might come up. Some of these acronyms are in a lot of the articles that I read, but tofu, not just vegetarian protein, it is top of funnel now. So when we're talking sales and marketing, right, top of funnel awareness level, getting people in, you've got, there's MOFU, which is middle of the funnel, not in here, and BOFU, bottom of the funnel. EAT now has the extra E, but that is something that Google and others talk about when it comes to your content needs to show expertise, that you have the experience, you have some authoritativeness in the content that you're creating, and that it's trustworthy. So a lot of those signals summarized into EAT. GEO, generative engine optimization, AI overviews, AIO, AEO, RAG, that one comes up sometimes. That's retrieval augmented generation. So the difference in some AI overviews is that's just what the LLMs, which you'll see on the bottom, the large language model optimization, like ChatGPT and Claude, those have been served and learned on content that's already out there. There are others now, the RAG is they'll take what they know, but they actually go out and search other content, like Perplexity is more of a RAG AI engine. Gotta love that housekeeping. So a reality check, if you haven't seen it already, you might see your organic traffic dropping 20% or more. Some of the research says by 2026, you might see your organic traffic fall 50%. Now, traffic is traffic, that's one measure, but it's really about your conversions. We'll talk more about that later. It's getting the right traffic to your site, and there are many ways outside of organic to get people to your website. AIO is the new SEO. SEO is not dead. Let's just talk about that. And don't believe all the hype. So nothing changes overnight. The new search landscape, again, we used to talk about keyword first. Like everyone talked about their keywords, they're searching in what they're looking for. And now we look for answers. And if you remember, even it was a year or more ago, everyone talked about optimizing for voice search because now people are searching, from their phone, or so it's longer tail questions, right? Where do I, how can I find, what's the best? Those are different things that now are incorporated into the content that we create to provide those answers. And if you've written articles lately, you will notice FAQs and you'll have a lot of questions in there. And then those answers. So you can see it in the content being created and it'll stand out to you more now. People are only on Google and search engines. They're looking for answers to a question. They're looking for a problem to solve. And then they're looking for someone who can help them with it. You'll hear me harp a lot on understanding who your best audience is and creating content just for them. If you're like me and others, SEO might seem a little broken because everyone talks about AI and AI overviews, and you can't optimize what you can't see, right? So with the AI mode now, Google, I don't know if you've been on Chrome lately, in the Google search engine. Now there's AI mode. There's the traditional search and the AI mode. It was kind of fun to test some searches there when looking for something relevant to one of our clients, like the best local uniform company in West Michigan. And the AI mode had a lot more details and information in the response versus just the general AI overview along with the list of local companies in the searches that I did. The average prompt, it used to be 4 words. Remember, I want red running shoes, size 9. Now they are much longer when you're doing prompts or searches. And users like us, even when we're searching for answers, want synthesized answers. We don't want like a list of links. We don't want to do our own research anymore. And some people now, and I've had even Mike and others on here tell me, they'll go in and search ChatGPT for answers, right? Instead of going to Google. So we are seeing a shift from people going to the answer engines outside of Google search. Google search traffic is down. It used to be 95% of all search. Now it's about 90, but it is still, kind of a dominating force there. And they'll continue to adapt the AI overviews and what they return just because that's how they make money, right? Getting people using their engine. Um, so one example, the old way, a user used to search like the best CRM for small business, right? 4 words, and they'd get 10 links and several ads that they have to research independently. And like if you were one of those CRM brands, your goal was to be one of those top links organically and or paid, right? The new way is now people will search what is the best CRM for a 10-person remote sales team. It's a lot more descriptive. And also now AI will take information that it synthesized from other sources. It'll look at reviews. It will look at, the CRM websites. It might look at industry publication like PC Mag, other things like that, and even forum discussions. So it gets deeper and it'll give you a direct recommendation. The brand's goal is to be recommended. So that's why, building some of that brand authority can also include, if you're the best CRM or a CRM for a small business, submitting guest articles and other things like that to build that brand authority. So there's more that we'll get into here as well. But you can see the difference. You'd get the different types of results, and now we're actually looking for the longer tail solution. Again, the traffic reality. I'm sure you've talked to someone or as you've reviewed your own analytics, people are seeing their traffic go down, overall traffic. Gartner, like I said, predicts a 50% decrease in organic traffic by 2028, but 80% of searches still use organic search results to complete their journeys. Let's pause for a moment and remember the buyer journey is pretty complex. And usually they're doing their research, they'll take into account AI overviews, they will look at the search results, they'll actually go do their own homework. This is more in the B2B space before they'll make their own short list of who they want to reach out to. So, one visit to your website isn't necessarily going to get them to change an entire service provider, but it's where they're going to come to find information, get answers to the questions, make sure you're a good fit. Organic traffic is one channel. When you're looking at analytics, organic traffic is important. That is earned. You also have paid from paid ads, paid social. You can have referral links from other articles. You can have direct search because people know your brand, see a vehicle, word of mouth referrals, Google Business. So organic is one channel, and it will see those change. It'll be interesting to monitor your analytics over time. But the biggest thing when people are going to search something is answering their questions and addressing their pains. And remember, your website is a sales and marketing tool, not just a lead gen tool, right? It is a marketing tool. It helps even pre-qualify with content, checklists, and things that you can provide to visitors to make it more than just a traffic tool. Who wins in AI search? Anybody want to shout out any answers in the chat? Have any winners? The biggest thing is the searchers. Searchers win, right? Google's job and search engines' jobs are to give people what they're looking for in as few searches as possible. And now we have AI agents and things like ChatGPT and Claude that are answering our questions more completely and doing some of the research for us. So searchers win. We all win when we're looking for things now. Congratulations. But keep in mind, again, these are conversations with personal context and a memory. So as we enable AI mode, or if you've used ChatGPT and you're looking for specific things to do your job, it will retain that and remember you when you're logged in, right? So you get more personalized results based on your searches and the interactions that you have there. There's some specific challenges in the B2B space. In AI overviews, search engine optimization, there are complex buyer journeys. Like I said, people might not buy a $1 million piece of equipment, change a supplier or provider for a key part of their business based on one search and one visit. So there are other signals, including your brand authority, brand awareness, reviews and testimonials and a lot of other things. Knowing that journey and where all of your content is important. B2B, we have longer sales cycles, so it can be hard to track a lead all the way from a sale. And, attribution with AI overviews gets a little tougher because people can find your content through so many different places now. So do we attribute that to organic? Did marketing get that lead? Did sales get it? That can be a challenge. And one thing that, we're doing is we continue to monitor like traffic patterns on a client site, but we also look at leads. If someone talks about leads being down, it might be that overall conversions and people filling out the form are down, but is lead quality really down? So it's actually digging into who converted and what was done with that lead, so we have better measures. And then account-based strategies don't really translate as well in B2B in the AI space. But there's opportunities too, wherever there's challenges, right? In the B2B space, there can be less competition in AI. Those who are early to adopt. We know B2B in some industries can be slower to adopt digital transformation and SEO. And digging into deeper, the next one, higher value qualified traffic, is really honing in on that ideal customer profile and knowing who you want to talk to. And you're talking just to them in your content. So you can increase the value of the traffic, even if the quantity of your traffic doesn't go up. And then quality over quantity. So focusing your shift from volume, like we want more leads, to we want relevant leads that are actionable and will help us fill our sales pipeline. So it's conversion quality, not just quantity. So what does helpful content really mean? For years, everyone talks about being helpful and answering their questions. And now it's going beyond those keywords, but it's looking at the quality and depth more than a word count as well. So if you can answer a customer's question or a prospect's question in a few sentences, do it. It doesn't have to be longer necessarily or a higher word count just to be authoritative. So I was talking to a client yesterday, he sells replacement parts for indoor cycles. And he gets these questions all the time about how do I install this? I said, build out your FAQs. A couple of sentences is fine. If you've got a video, drop it in and just help your user, because that's one question. One, you don't have to answer all the time. And two, if other people are searching it, it could probably get found and generate more sales for you. So these are things to just keep in mind. Less can be more because no one reads online like they do like a book either. Also being specific to search intent, reviewing content calendars and looking at, again, shifting from keywords to questions. There are things where we talk about an informational search, like how do I do this? To those that are more commercially intent. So they're actually looking for the product or service, like who's the best at this, or who do I reach out to fix, this specific, I guess, machine or vehicle or something like that. Searchers are getting smarter. Get to your point quickly. We don't need a lot of fluff. And again, covering the topics as they deserve, that just means be to the point. And do your own original research and insights as content. So there's a lot of industry knowledge, but if you survey your customers, or if you have even a snippet of some industry related study, you can translate that to your customers. We do a lot of work in uniform rental industry, for example. Well, there's a lot of talk about sustainability, and California is working on regulation where 50% of PPE needs to be reusable. Those are pretty big things that you can take and trickle down to people that you're calling on, whether you're in West Michigan, Ohio, but just talk about environmental impact. And there's these studies done that when you use reusable PPE garments and things like this, you're reducing the environmental impact, you have a cleaner product, and things like that. So those are, again, research and insights you can share that they wouldn't necessarily find on their own. Content that wins citations. Citations wasn't in our glossary, but that just means like, yeah, you're picked up in AI, you're picked up by the search engines, it's the link, all the things that they look for. So that quotable, authoritative content, I'm guessing many of you have read an article and they're like, oh, that's a good one. Oh, I want to share this on LinkedIn. That's the authoritative, quotable content that we're talking about. Having clear section headers and structure on your website is important. So structured data, direct answers to common questions, like we mentioned, those FAQs. For the last several months, and we went to client sites who had just FAQ pages that covered a lot of different things. And we would take those FAQs and put them on like product specific pages. So you're building out the relevant content on that page, so they don't have to search for anything. It's all right there. You can do expert interviews and case studies. Those are great ways to show how someone else has the other pain, but you're bringing in more of here's what we did for someone else and those impactful results. And then some of those comprehensive guides that serve entire buying committees. The B2B space, we know we might be talking to someone who's impacted when they're angry about a service, but there's several people, probably at the executive level, that are involved in making a decision. If it's a managed IT service, for example, the IT team, the office manager, to the CFO, all have different stakes in what it would take and why, and questions they would have in changing a managed IT provider. So making sure, this is how we solve the pain for office managers. This is how we solve the pain, the CFO. It's not going to cost any extra for the support that you need, and things like that. So again, an example framework: problem identification with specific pain points. A long time ago, we had some fun with a uniform rental company and talked about somewhere out there is a worker without pants. So incomplete deliveries are a big pain point. How do we fix it? How do we solve it? And do we guarantee it? If you have a solution with implementation steps, like when we look at talking to someone new who they don't have good rankings, they're not getting traffic to their website from really any channel. We analyze their website, and if it's just them talking about themselves and, we've been around this long and we do this, that doesn't address the pains of your customer. So we get into talking to them and updating content. Like, we know you struggle with this, this, and this. Here's our process and how we solve it. And then proof could be testimonials. It could be on time, complete delivery percentages that they back up with data. And then always have your next steps with clear calls to action in that content framework. If you look at solution pages, even our webinar page, it's, yes, we're struggling with this. Here's what we're going to do for you. Here's some proof and outcomes that we've shared with other clients. And next steps are, do you have, regular questions? Do you want to do an audit? And we have a leave behind that we'll email out to everyone who attended today. So making sure it's clear in what we want people to do next. So I touched a little bit on your brand mention, and your brand name, brand authority, reputation, word of mouth, all that still matters. Even though organic, they might not know who you are yet. When you get those brand mentions, those are more impactful than traffic, because that can result in direct traffic. But if you want to be the brand mentioned in AI, and AI overviews, you can build recognition that drives direct inquiries. So if you continue to show up in some best of lists or the providers of this, that builds the brand reputation and your digital footprint. And you want to look at brand authority, not just domain authority. So we have a client in an e-commerce space that's in B2B. And they want to build their domain authority because they think that will build more traffic and sales, which, again, some good links and some good online PR would certainly help. But they also have a really well-known brand and they get a lot of direct traffic. So where do we want to spend our time? Maybe more on the user experience and things like that on the site, than just building some links for domain authority when they already have the brand reputation out there in the industry. Those are things to keep in mind. How do AI engines choose their sources? Well, let's see. Some have been around since 22, 23. AI and automation has been around for a long, long time. Google algorithms, anyone? All those changes over the decades. But there's training data, so that's what the model remembers, right? Remember, there's no new data that they go out and crawl. Well, they're crawling it now, but those are more the RAG, the real-time retrieval. So for a long time, ChatGPT would return what it knew, or actually Claude's probably a better example of that. It couldn't search links. It told you what it knew. There's the live internet data, so those RAGs. So now you can look at all the things you want to know about a company and more, and it'll dig deeper. Perplexity is a really good one there. And when AI engines, traditional SEO rankings do correlate with AI mentions because AI bots are out there crawling just like the search engines were. So it all still goes together. Now we just have more signals we can send to AI engines to pick up our content, making sure it's helpful, branded, thoughtful content. And building brand authority, I touched on this earlier, but it's a multi-platform strategy. That's a big word for saying, yeah, you should be in multiple places and have a solid digital footprint and be where it makes sense for you. B2B space, LinkedIn, sharing expert insights and company thought leadership, both from the company, but from also leaders of the company. It's not, people connect with people and they follow companies. And most of your people have more connections than your company has followers. Is what we find in the B2B space. YouTube, creating explainer videos and interviews, tours of your facility, interviews with, people on the front lines in your team, those customer experience videos, testimonial videos, and things like that. Industry publications, writing guest articles that get published online or in print, providing expert commentary on something. Expert commentary could be, again, an industry post on LinkedIn, and you're providing some insights and commentary there. That all sends signals to where AI is getting its data. It's all out there. I put Reddit on there because it comes up a lot in the research. Reddit threads, you can participate in industry discussions authentically. Um, but in the B2B space, Reddit is a lot of user generated content, not necessarily a lot of correct information. So there were some debates on how much it scored Reddit information, but it looks at Reddit, it looks at Wikipedia. The AIs are crawling all that information too. So making sure your brand reputation is cleaned up out there. What type of content builds authority? We touched on this earlier, but original research reports, industry trend analysis, expert roundtables and interviews. So launching a podcast, doing things like that, that will show that's your own content, you're creating it. Comprehensive case studies, not just the short ones. Technical white papers, again, in the B2B space, lots of fun technical stuff. Thought leadership on LinkedIn posts and webinars, wink, wink, can help build authority. They're lots of fun to do too. So from a website and content strategy that you should revisit on the technical side, look at crawlability. So search engines and AI bots crawl the site, making sure you have things in the right place with schema markup, your H tags, location, alt tags, all of these other things. A lot of that is handled through some SEO plugins. Also discovered Yoast, if SEO, if you use that one, now will create an LLM sitemap that you can submit, just like you have the XML sitemap for the search engines in Google Search Console. The Google Search Console is starting to show AI overviews and your results there, although all the tracking is still questionable. But we do the best with the data that we have. Optimizing for your user experience. So mobile and desktop users want different things, especially looking at some of the articles that I'll share. Desktop is, they're spending more time there. They're digging in a little deeper. They're reading a lot of things. If they're searching something from a mobile perspective, it might be a comparison. So you might reorganize, like maybe FAQs show up higher or comparisons on a mobile view versus a desktop view. So it's looking at that user intent. And even more so in the B2C space, that's significantly more relevant. But then looking at Search Console, I mentioned that. So an AI overview of the traffic data, you can look at, the impressions you might have in AI overviews versus impressions you might have in Google search results. So keeping an eye on those things. Some of the SEO tools, SEMrush, Ubersuggest, others are starting to show AI overviews as well, but a lot of them are getting their data from Google. So I always recommend go right to the Google source if and when you can. And Search Console is a Google product. From your content strategy perspective to revisit, keep all of your comprehensive expert level content. That's good stuff to have in there. Update generic content so it's specific. So if you read through a page and you're like, oh, we should really include this for customers, we should tell them this, we get asked this all the time, we should have that. Update your pages. Even if you wrote it 6 months ago, I would bet something changed in your industry. And for sure, if your pages are a year or more old, it's time to give them an update anyway, because things have changed. And give them some actions, right? Give them things to do within the content, whether it's a call to action to learn more. If you have a checklist they could download, or here's the top 3 things you should do, give them things to do. You can create those FAQ sections addressing the related questions within the pages or within the products on your website, not just a general FAQ page. Oh, spell check things, because I didn't on expand. Expand successful content into topic clusters. You can Google topic clusters. A lot of content tools will help with the content pillar or pillar-based marketing. That's the way they talk about it. But we do a lot around digital marketing, but digital marketing is a lot of things between SEO, paid search, social media, your website. Then we can take, SEO, and we can go into on page, off page, schema, AI, and you can create and deepen content around those pillars. What do you mean? Anyone have that question yet? It means, can you add an FAQ section to your site? That's what I'm asking. Yeah, you probably can. If you don't have one on your site, yep, you can do that. I would start there. Do you have any additional insights or industry trends you could link to or mention and link to the source that would beef up your content and your content authority? Yes, you probably do. Can you add more internal links to pages or posts on your website? Yes, you can. That's one thing we see that's missed a lot. But search bots, LLMs, and users all like internal links because it's a better experience to get to more related content based on what you're talking about. And can you expand on blogs or past articles with additional content and not just create another post? Yes, you can. That's what we mean. Go back, look at blogs instead of maybe you write one every year around, summer, back to school, winter weather. Uh, Update it instead of recreating the same thing because then you're doing some keyword cannibalization or topic cannibalization. Make things stronger and better instead of rewriting and doing the same thing over and over again. So action items, what can you do? Here's the things I want you to take away from this. From your content strategy, as you're looking at that, we're in Q3, heading into Q4 in a few months. Audit your top 10 pages for AI friendly formatting. And what that means is, are your H1s, your H2s, are those all in order? Are they clear, helpful, and informational? We see sites that might sometimes have an H3, sometimes an H4 because they like the styling, but that sends mixed signals to search engines and AI crawlers as well. Uh, Add FAQ sections to your product or service pages, or things they should know, or key tips, little things like that that are really specific to your service, your products. And create role specific content for different stakeholders. Again, the IT example, if you're managed IT or your phone systems, you have several stakeholders that are involved in that decision-making process. They're probably not all going to be on the page at the same time. One person's doing research, one person might find this helpful. So if you look at that, making sure like office managers love us because we're there in the first call and we avoid downtime and no one's complaining about the phones. The CFOs and C-level executives like us because one, the phones are always working and it's a cost-effective, competitive solution. So there's other ways to work that in there. On the uniform rental side, we look at people who might be like a safety person or a shift manager, someone that's on the floor dealing with uniform complaints, like things are missing, they got delivered to the wrong spot. But you can bet when they're looking at a new provider, if they have a couple hundred guys in uniforms, sorry, humans in uniforms, because women wear them too, they are, there's a lot of other factors, right? It's not just delivered on time, but the cost needs to be competitive, the service and things like that need to be done as well. So looking at all those things to make sure the content for the other stakeholders is there. Look at your digital footprint. So establish or improve your presence on LinkedIn. I talked with a company recently that we're going to start working with, and he says, I don't do social media. I said, well, that's okay if you don't, but someone certainly on your team needs to. We just had an article published that came out in print this week using LinkedIn for sales in the B2B space. It's also a blog on our website. But beef up your presence on LinkedIn. Be consistent. Consider YouTube videos. And it doesn't have to be super high polished videos, but make that part of your content strategy. Reddit is another one that, again, is in B2C space. I can also give you Mike July's contact info because he participates in Reddit threads quite a bit. And repurposing content across multiple platforms. Well, we're talking about SEO and AI and your website. That's one spot. We look at your website as a hub. You're posting stuff on LinkedIn. You're sending relevant emails to people when it makes sense. You're posting it to Facebook. You might be linking it from other directories. So there's other places to put your content and look at your whole footprint. Not just your website. Because AI looks at all those signals out there. your Google business profile as well. How do you measure it? You can track brand mentions and AI responses. Again, that's going to be through Google Search Console or other paid SEO tools. You can, well, monitor Search Console right there. You can also search your brand using incognito windows or a browser where you have no history and look to see if you come up in AI responses. A long time ago, we would do that and look at top organic competitors and top paid competitors for clients. And you look who shows up more consistently, not the one hit wonders, but those become your true competitors in the online space, whether it's AI, SEO, and you want to look at what they're doing and how you can reverse engineer for you. Look at your conversion rates versus your traffic volume. So while traffic might come down from organic, is your conversion rate higher, right? Is your quality of leads better because we're not getting just random traffic? They're actually more intentional by the time they get to the website if they found you in an AI overview. And then focus on your revenue per visitor, not the visitor count. So again, we're looking at for those quality metrics over quantity metrics. And that can take some education with the C-suite, I understand. Why is our traffic down? But if leads aren't down and lead value is up, then you're doing the right things, right? Anyone can get traffic. It's getting the right type of leads. Over the next 90 days, think about your generative engine optimization. So create those topic clusters that I mentioned. There's a lot out there in the online space about content pillar and pillar-based marketing. Lots of examples, and there's one in the article I'll share in my resources for this. Develop an expert interview series. Mike July at MoxieMen has started his podcast. It doesn't always have to be a video podcast, right? You can just interview certain clients, certain vendors, different things to bring that level of expertise to your content. Build some original research capabilities, like maybe it's a customer survey. So you can use it as a proof point in business development, but also on your website. Like 98% of our customers say this. Those are all good things through customer surveys as well. And then optimize for conversational queries. So keywords are kind of dead. Talking to a B2B company that said, we don't come up for X. I said, well, that's really, really generic. And that's not what we want. We want someone like who's looking for, the best or the most competitive, blah, blah, blah supplier, not a single part as an example. You can look at account-based content. So mapping content to the buyer journeys. We actually have a buyer journey webinar we did and some free downloads on our site. So think about all the places your buyer might go to get information before they come to you. That stakeholder specific content path, like what does a user need? What does a key decision maker need to make sure that those things are addressed within the content and those parts of the buying committees, and build an account level measurement system. So looking at overall value of accounts, not just these individual quality metrics that I talked about. And then build authority. So guest posting on industry publications, speaking at industry events, and incorporating some of those speeches or mentions into your digital footprint. Build partnerships with complementary brands. Can you do posts or informational shares on their website and in their emails? Create collaborative content with industry experts. Again, the uniform industry that we're in, there's a lot of industry experts in that space and vendors where we don't necessarily overlap, but it's a good way to collaborate and share content, to share it with their network and our network. And it's a good way to bring things together. So I have time for some question and answers. I do have a few from some of the questions that people submitted. A few was like, should we stop doing traditional SEO? No, don't stop. How do we measure success in this new landscape? It is looking at the quality over quantity. Like I said, we also show Google Analytics and traffic patterns, but we're actually showing the leads that were generated because our a lot of our clients have longer sales cycles. So success means you got these leads, the salespeople worked them in, it turned into this. We might have to track that for 6 months or a year. That's where your CRMs and some of those tools are important. Um, and then what's the biggest mistake B2B companies are making? Um, Sometimes it's trying to be all things to all people. Um, there's a lot of different things that, again, thinking that SEO is dead, or like the example I had, just the keyword. We want to come up for this keyword. People aren't talking or researching like that anymore. So it's really getting into, I always say your sales and your customer service people are content gold. What questions are they getting? What pains are they hearing? And making sure that is reiterated in your content. Let me go back to a cute, oh, yeah. So a question in the chat, what's the suggested format for expert interviews, podcast, audio show, written, YouTube? They all work equally. That's a lot of questions, Mandy. But as far as, podcasts, you can have outlines, whether it's radio shows, YouTube. The conversational works best. Usually if there's, when we've done it or when I've interviewed people, or been interviewed on other podcasts, there's usually a few key talking points. Like, what's the goal? The outcome is we want to educate readers, listeners, watchers on X. So what kind of questions and conversations can we talk about? And then, make sure those key points are part of a script or an outline that they're covered. When you post it on YouTube, YouTube will create the script, but you could always transcribe and have most of that video embedded on your site with the written words. Because we know search engines, they index based on your video description and things like that. But some of these AI engines and others still need a lot of content to search. As far as more engagement than others, my favorite marketing answer is it depends. Um, but looking at, again, where traffic is already. So there's so much traffic on YouTube, how can we leverage that channel for us? If you create a podcast or do a video, there's tools like Riverside where it's fairly simple. Thank you, Justin, on my team for helping us. But there's things like that where sometimes go where the traffic is to start, certainly using your site and things like that. But I always like to have the written part as well, because while I know a lot of people prefer to just watch a video, a 2-minute video, I want to scan and read. I don't have 2 minutes to watch a video, which I know sounds ridiculous, but everybody's a little different. Are there other questions that people had if they want to put in the chat or unmute themselves and ask? They don't have their cameras off, so I don't know if they're really there. Just teasing. Those that had specific questions, I did try to respond to all the entries as well. I will go back through that and respond to you as well. Yes, Sherry.
I was wondering if you could kind of talk a little bit more about H1 and H2 content, SEO versus more conversational and talking directly to those customer pain points that you mentioned. How does that work moving forward with these AI readers?
Good question. Even in looking at sites that, we design or write copy for now, our H1s used to be, it'd just be like uniform rental company or uniform rental programs. Now it's like the best local uniform provider, or it's getting more descriptive. When you're answering questions, like we are incorporating more questions in there, like how do people search, what questions do they have, like how do I do X, and then your answer is there. So structuring it that way, we've always talked about H tags as like the chapters and titles of a book. So you've got the chapter, your heading, and your subheadings. It's really just making sure it's in hierarchical order as well, not just jumping back and forth. Um, in where you're styling and placing those in the pages as well. So I'm all for incorporating those questions into the headings because that's how people search and talk.
Great, thank you.
John asked if it will be recorded and we'll send it out. Yes, we'll send it to everyone who registered. And a few other tidbits. Anyone have any other questions? If I had to choose one thing that would be the quickest win in AIO, what would I recommend? I would do your content audit and look at your top 10 most visited pages or high traffic pages and look for updates there and make sure it's relevant to the questions people ask. So it's really 10 things by 10 pages, but start with what's on your site. If it's WordPress, make sure if whatever SEO plugin you're using, like Yoast SEO and Rank Math, they now create the LLM sitemap, if you will. You can have that created so it shows up in your schema as well. Good question. I can take non-AI SEO related questions if anyone has any of those. Oh. All right, well, just to recap, helpful content, that's what it's always been about, even from SEO way back. Specific, actionable, and expert level insights are more important than general. I always say if you read it and say, so what? Then you need to dig a little deeper. Branded search, multi-platform authority building. So use your LinkedIn profiles, your Google business profiles, your social media. It's not just about your website, it's about building your brand and your brand reputation. Your website strategy, the AI friendly formatting and comprehensive topics, not just singular. And specific content is better than words. And then B2B actions like your stakeholder specific content and platform diversification. That just means multi-platform. You're going to be in other places. So you can contact us if you would like an audit, you want some suggestions. I will send out the list of resources that I use and also the notes as I put this together because I talk through a lot instead of making out reads and slides. You can email me directly with questions. Jody, you asked if I mentioned a solution that helps simplify podcasts. Yes, we're working with Riverside, and it's made things a lot simpler to do even social snippets. And we tried that because several people that I did podcasts with also use that. So it'll transcribe it and everything. I'll see if I can get an affiliate link. No, I'm just kidding. It's like $29 a month. So it's very reasonable for how we're using it. So yeah, podcast coming soon because none of us have enough to do. Awesome. All right. Well, I will give everyone a few more minutes. The best programs to use. Nala, for what? For SEO. We've used SEMrush for a long time. We're actually starting to test Ubersuggest, and I've seen a lot of good things about Search Atlas as well. There's a few other new ones out there that will say that'll do some of the optimization for you, but I don't know that those are there yet. Always use the human eye and human touch. But I'm leaning towards Ubersuggest because of the affordability compared to SEMrush right now. You're welcome. All right. Well, you can always email me with any other questions, reach out to the team. We monitor all of our questions and things elsewhere. Look for an email shortly with the recording link and all the things that I mentioned. And you're welcome to send us any questions. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks so much, Rebecca.
You're welcome. We'll see you in search.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Bye.